Hey everyone, welcome to Daily Revelations. So, worship is. What are we going to talk about today? Well, I dove into a new word that didn't have a whole lot of references in the New Testament, but was very impactful nonetheless. And so, therefore, I'm making a video today. Like I said, if the word is going to take a long time for me to do a study, I'm going to hold off till I finish it so that I can give you the full idea, the picture that the Bible represents of that word. So today's word is called sebomai. And the Greek meaning of that word, or the meaning of that Greek word in our terms, is worship. But it's worship as a bold movement of expression with an attitude of being impressed by something. Now, I'm going to share with you where it's in the New Testament. Then I'm going to share with you, just as I was processing and praying over this and asking God, really, am I bold? Am I not bold? Am I bold enough? There's a lot of questions that came into my mind, and I really wrestled with this because I tend to not be a bold person in general, except over certain things. And so that got me, anyways, wrestling, which we have to do with God, because how certain things that God teaches us applies to our lives may not look the same for every person. So I want you to just hold on to this, because if you say, I'm not a bold person, wait for the ending. You'll like this. So the only place in the Gospels where this word is used happens to be for false worshipers who are bold in their convictions. And we see this all the time for people that are proclaiming untruths, following what they call worshiping in deeds that are vain, and following the rules of man. Those people are bold and everywhere. And they just want to force what they believe onto everyone else. That's not what we're talking about. But the only instances where this boldness is recorded, or specifically with this word, is in Acts. And it's used quite a few times. Other ways that it's translated, other than worshiper, is God-fearing, devout. And God-fearing in the fact that they went and joined somewhere, that they listened intently, that they honored God with an action, or they followed in a way that made them forsake what they were doing before. So it was boldness, but boldness in an action that wasn't just screaming and yelling and boldness. I know I've heard many times from pastors and worship leaders saying, be bold. If you were in a stadium and you were watching a team, and you'd be yelling and jumping up and down. And I kept thinking when I hear that, no, I wouldn't be. I'm not the type of person that does that. And so my boldness is going to look different than somebody else's boldness, because that's just who I am. And that was the wrestling I had with God over this, was, do I have to be flamboyantly bold to be bold for you? And as I'm reading through these examples of what these people did to be bold, it was very much in the character of who God made them to be and how he made them to specifically worship him. So one of the examples was Lydia. And Lydia is known throughout a lot of the New Testament as being someone who just, when God got her heart, she lived for him devoutly, and she followed him as a God-fearing worshiper in all that she did. And that was by sharing what she had, and by doing a whole bunch of other things. That was her boldness in worship. And so I have to look at my own life. What do I hold back on that would be an expression of my boldness for God? That I am accountable for. But I need not compare myself to how others are being bold for God, because personally, that's how they express themselves in their boldness. And it's not something that I should be comparing myself to. because that's not how God made me to worship him in boldness. So, yes, there are times that I have zipped my lips and not said things when I should have, and been bold to proclaim the truth of God in instances where he made me strong enough to do that, and I am accountable for that. And I need to confess that and say, God, next time, help me to be strong and bold in that. But when I see other people expressing their boldness, the other thing I need to do is to not feel bad that I'm not expressing my boldness in the way they are. And so that's really what I took away from this, is that there's a personal sense of boldness for God, and that is our call to worship. When we express an attitude where we exalt God as lofty and great, because that's who he is, through whatever instances he puts in front of us, and personally how he has gifted us and given us that boldness to go against the grain of the world. You know, the other thing that I wrote in my notes was, why is it so hard? Well, it's so hard because we think, what is that person going to think about me? How are the people in this situation? Or how is this going to turn out if I go against the grain? Because worship goes against the grain of this world. Worship of God, that is. You can worship anything else and everybody will be happy with you. They won't oppose you at all. But when you call out the true God to worship, just like Jesus did, you will be persecuted and people will not like you. And I think that fear stands in front of our personal boldness as well. And so I'm sure I'm going to be addressing that in other episodes. But for now, just understand that you have a personal kind of boldness for God. And that is what we each need to tap into. And that's what we're accountable for before him. So thanks for joining me today on Daily Revelations. I will see you again the next time that I have something to share with you on what worship is. Bye.